everybody, today I'm talking about e-bikes, and specifically the e-bikes that cost under $2,000. So people, they go out and they buy a bike a lot of times and they decide not to use it, or they forget about it. It hangs up in their garage. They want to use it again. They call me out. It costs like $100 to get that bike up and running. If you go out and you buy an e-bike and you end up not using it, and 10 years later you want to use it, the odds that battery is still functional is pretty low. And if it does function, you're only going to be able to go a fraction of the distance you used to be able to go on it when it was new. E-bikes wear out over time, and they wear out a lot quicker than a regular bike that's just metal. You know, metal and grease is what a regular bike's made out of. You have on an e-bike, you have the battery, you have the control, you have all these electrical cables, you know, and if they can even wear out. So you have to think of it like that it's, if you buy an e-bike, you got to use it. And when I go out to customers' houses with e-bikes, the most use that they're getting is 50 to 500 miles. That's the average on e-bikes that I go out and service. They have around 100 or so miles on them. Very rarely do I go out and an e-bike has over 1,000 miles on the odometer. So you have to consider, how much are you really going to ride this thing? Because if you don't ride it regularly like a regular bike, it's not going to be worth anything in the future. So you have to ride it when you buy it. So that's something to consider with the e-bikes. Another thing to consider with e-bikes is people are using them to replace their cars. They think it's a cheaper way to get around from point A to point B. And if an e-bike costs around $1,500 to $1,000 with $2,000 with tax, and it's seeing 500 miles at most of distance, that cost per mile is $3. $3 cost per mile, which puts it up there in like a higher end vehicle. If you're just looking to get to point A to point B the cheapest way possible, a 20-year-old sedan is probably a better option than buying an e-bike, in my opinion. And the other thing about these e-bikes, these Bafang, almost all of them, they use a Bafang, which is a company, a Bafang rear wheel hub motor. And these motors, they get the job done, but they are not engineered to last as long as a Bosch or a Yamaha mid-drive motor. They run on the rear wheel, the bearings wear out, the electrical cable that connects in there is not really even designed to be replaced. So even if you nick your electrical cable, the motor is toast. A lot of people, they buy these bikes from random brands and they call me out, the controller's broken, something else the electronic wise is broken on the battery. The company's nowhere to be found, and they bought this a year to 2 years ago, and they're out literally $1,000, $2,000. This thing becomes a paperweight. This e-bike becomes a paperweight. So it's really important when you're shopping for an e-bike to buy it from a brand that you can trust. And I gotta say, most of these e-bike brands, they are in the business basically of selling home gym equipment. So if you think about, you go to Walmart and you remember those ellipticals and those treadmills, and people buy them with the idea that they're going to use it to get in shape, but they never actually do. Well, that gym equipment is not engineered really to be used. And one of the worst brands I see that's kind of marketing to this, they have an ad I see all the time that their e-bike got 10,000 miles used on it. And I don't doubt that I don't think they're lying. I think that it's a fluke that bike model specifically, that one customer was able to ride that bike for 10,000 miles. But that is definitely not what they're engineered to do. The bearings in them fall apart pretty quickly. It's kind of a quantity thing. So give a really generous warranty so the people who do actually end up using it over 500 miles, they get taken care of with new parts when it fails. But most of their customers, most of these e-bike customers, these bikes are never seeing actual use, so that they can manufacture them at a level of quality that I don't think is a great idea. It's like buying a piece of workout equipment at Walmart and then trying to use it every day. It's most likely it's going to fall apart. There is a chance it doesn't fall apart, but most likely it will. So you can still get it, don't get me wrong, you can still get a decent e-bike under $2,000, but there is only 2 brands I recommend. And there might be brands that offer the same level of quality as these 2, but they're not as big. And when you're selling an e-bikes, Rad Power and Aventon, they're selling tens of millions of e-bikes to the world. You know, there's any problem you come up with on your e-bike, if it's a Rad Power or an Aventon e-bike, someone else in the world has had that problem and has probably talked about it on a forum online. So you can troubleshoot any problem with these 2 brands. Also, these 2 brands have hundreds of millions of dollars behind them. Rad Power is an American company. Of course, they manufacture their bikes in China. And Aventon is a Chinese company, but Aventon supports American bike shops. And you can go into a bike shop and buy an Aventon bike for the same price you can buy it online. So it's kind of a catch-22. You can support Rad Power, the American company, or you can support Aventon, the Chinese company, but that Chinese company also supports the local bike shops in a more meaningful way compared to Rad Power. But those are the 2 brands I would stick with. If you bought a Rad Power Rad Wagon 10 years ago, you can go online and you can buy a controller for it. You can buy a new battery for it. Most brands in that price range, if they're even still in business, it's going to be a headache. So if you're diehard set on getting a e-bike, stick with those 2 brands is my recommendation. If you don't care about repairability, I just want an e-bike, I don't care if it blows up or whatever, I have ridden the Ozark Trail. They have a fat tire e-bike and it's under $1,000. And I don't know if you can get replacement parts or batteries for that in the future, but I would feel safe parking it in my garage compared to the random Amazon brands because it has the Walmart Ozark Trail logo on it. I'm pretty sure they've created something that is more fire safe than the random fly-by-night e-bike companies that pop up. So that's my recommendations with e-bikes. I like e-bikes. This is a e-trike. It's my dad's. It's really goofy. It's got 2 front wheels on it. And I talk a lot about my opinions on logic and stuff about buying bikes and which bikes I like. This bike is completely illogical. It's super silly. It doesn't steer great, but it's fun. And having a fun bike, it's an important measure too, is to have fun on a bike. Not all bikes need to be the most logical thing to get. So if you want to get an e-bike and you want to use it to go down to the store, go ahead, get the e-bike, use it to go down to the store. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make financial sense to do it. If that's what you want to do, do it. But I just don't see anyone really talking about how e-bikes, the per mile usage on an e-bike is usually, for most customers, it is higher than the per mile usage of their regular car. So yeah, it's like buying, this is an analogy I thought of when I was thinking of this video. Typewriters versus computers. So if you were in the 90s or the 80s and you just needed to type a paper, you could buy a typewriter or you could buy a new computer. 10 years later, that typewriter that you bought is still going to work out of the closet. But if you pulled out a computer you bought 10 years prior, 15 years prior, that computer's not going to work at all, basically. And that's kind of where we're at with e-bikes. The chargers are changing, all the technology's constantly changing, and an e-bike is a lot more like a computer, and a regular bicycle is more like a typewriter. A regular bicycle is just metal and grease, and it's easily fixed. And an e-bike has electronic wires that'll wear out. It has a battery that'll wear out. It has all these little things that can wear out over time. So that's a thing to think about when you're looking for a e-bike. Also, used e-bikes, I recommend not buying a used e-bike unless the value of the battery is removed from it. So e-bikes and regular bikes, they're priced about the same because people are like, well, it's a bike, it's an e-bike in the used market. And I feel like used e-bikes are all way higher valued than they actually are. So when you buy a used e-bike, especially if it's more than 2 years old, you got to consider that battery is half gone or almost all the way gone. So, and those batteries cost $500 minimum usually. So that's something to consider when you're looking for a bike. A used e-bike that's $400 cheaper than a new one is not a good deal in my opinion. So, but it's all about having fun. I'm gonna have some fun with this bike, and have a good day, everybody. Ah! Everybody, I already recorded this video about e-bikes and how awesome Rad Power is. I saw in the news that Rad Power is probably going to be bankrupt by January. They're going to run out of money and fire everybody. My opinion still stands. I would still rather buy a Rad Power because I don't think Rad Power is going to go away permanently. They have tens of millions of bikes in the US. They have name recognition. They might close down. They might go bankrupt. They're going to get bought again, and someone is still going to be running the bikes. The bike parts are still going to be available. In my opinion, I don't think the sky's falling. I think the sky's falling for the people who work at Rad Power now, but there's just too much name recognition in that brand to just let it die. I think it's going to be around. Same with YT. I think YT is going to come back around as well. These private equity venture capitalists dump tens of millions of dollars into marketing to get YT and Rad Power and a whole bunch of other brands, you know, in other industries. They've dumped a lot of money into them, and that means the brand itself is worth something. So I don't think they're going to die. They might be smaller than they were, and it might be a better option to get an Aventon now. But yeah, so end video clarification. Yeah, I know, I recorded it earlier. So have a good day, everybody.